All right, welcome everyone. So I'm Steven from Team 479. We're one of Sky's FTC teams, and today I'm going to be presenting about rendering. Um, just by show of interest, how many of you guys are on an FTC team? Okay, that's cool. And how many of you guys are on an FRC team? All right, that's cool. But rendering's a pretty fun process of, I guess, robotics, and it ties a lot in with CAD. So I'm gonna. Oh yeah, I should probably do this. Does everyone here know like what CAD is, or, like how to CAD? All right, cool. Okay. So I guess I'll start off. So we're gonna be using Fusion 360. Everyone knows what Fusion 360 is? Yeah. Okay. Um, So, a little introduction to what rendering is. Rendering is pretty much creating realistic images from your CAD model. So, normally when you have like a CAD model, right, you have like that really like crunky, like crusty, blocky texture. And rendering is like putting it in some imaging processing software and like making it, look realistic. So, if you do FRC, you probably know SolidWorks. SolidWorks supports rendering. Fusion 360 and Blender. Blender's for like animations, and all of them are really good. But I really like Fusion 360 because of how like easy it is to use and it's really user friendly. So we're gonna be doing that today, and yeah, there are a lot of things that we can alter in the studio. So let's get started. So just to like help you understand like what we're talking about, these are some images and renders I made over last year. Competing in CAD challenges or for our robot. So this is a robot that my team designed in the Valor CAD challenge. It's a pretty popular FTC CAD challenge. Here's our drivetrain from last year. Here's another team's drivetrain from last year. And yeah, so we're gonna get set up. So in Fusion, I didn't give you use Fusion. You're normally familiar with the design tab. But we're gonna actually go to the render tab. And once we pop up in the render tab, you notice that like here. So this is like your normal Fusion like layout, right? You can like create sketches or something, right? You can edit parts on the robot. And if we go to the render tab, you'll automatically see like there's already this like kind of like cool lighting effect to it. So yeah, and there are many things we can do. We're gonna start off with yeah. So if you're coming in late, we're doing rendering, and just a quick background. Rendering is we're pretty much creating realistic images of our robot from CAD models, and just to show you some like I guess realistic images. There's this drivetrain from last year, and then there's a drivetrain from another team. So anyways. So the first thing about rendering is that we can select appearances to our robot. So right now everything looks pretty like matte. It's like a little like plastically color, right? And if I press the A key on Fusion, I can open up this menu, and what this menu allows me to do is basically like add a variety of appearances, right? So I can make things look metallic. I can make things look rubbery. I can make things look like plastic. So we scroll down to this library, and is my mic good for everyone? All right, cool. So we can browse a variety of like appearances. So metal is gonna be a really popular one because a robot's made out of metal, right? And then we can click aluminum in this menu. I'll try to make this bigger because on the projector it's a lot smaller. Okay. And there are a lot of like variety of colors, variety of materials we can do, right? I like to use aluminum satin for these plates on the robot. Right. And you can automatically see like there's like a kind of like a different like texture. Like you can see how like this part is like lighting up, right? So you get that like metallic appearance, right? So we can apply a variety of appearances, and it's as simple as dragging onto the model. So let's say I want this like plate to be like pink, right? So what I can do is that I can actually change the color of the material. So this plate was using this material, And what I can do is I can edit this material, and now I can like change it with RGB colors. I'm gonna make it red for this purpose. So we'll pick like, hopefully not ugly color red. That's pretty ugly, but I think that'll be fine. And then we can apply a different type of material. Let's say we can apply steel to like these. Let's see, what parts do we have? I don't know, we can apply a regular shade of aluminum. So that's into like these cross beams over here, right, on our robot. And then we could apply more colors, right? So a lot of rendering, like the bulk of rendering, I'm gonna be doing this for maybe another 5 minutes, is just applying these appearances, because you're trying to make your robot have like a materialistic appearance, right? For these belts, I guess I can do like rubber, and we're gonna do soft rubber for these drivetrain belts, right? And then we can also edit the color, make them look a little bit brighter so it's not all the way black, right? For a lot of things, I like to just do aluminum, so we can do that for these We could do that for these pulleys. We could do that for these hubs, and these standoffs. And as you notice, if two parts, like two CAD model parts, are the same thing, so like these two standoffs, I would assume that they're the same CAD model, like from the same file. And what the cool thing is that when I apply appearance to one, all of them actually change together, which is pretty cool. It's also super useful, and also highlights the importance of being consistent when you model in CAD. If you're using like random parts that aren't from the same file, right, you wouldn't be able to have this feature. Let's model these wheels. We're gonna go with another soft rubber appearance, but I don't want to use the black color. Like I don't want. Oops, what did I do? Okay, hopefully that fixes it. I don't want a black rubber appearance. I want a different type of rubber. So I'm gonna edit this, and I'm gonna change the color to like gray. And I drag onto these wheels and see all of them changed, right? I can apply this color to the plates. And if I don't want this color to be the same thing as this one, right, I can actually change that. I'm gonna duplicate this, and I'm gonna make it like a different color, but the same material. So I'm gonna make it more like rosy. All right. And yeah, we could do like aluminum satin for this. And we're pretty much almost done actually. There's like not that much of the robot that we actually need to go through. So I'm gonna drag that, right, and these quad blocks, I guess. And then lastly, the motors. We're gonna need to give them some appearance. So just a quick activity. What material do you guys think this should be? Like this motor body? Someone want to redesign? Alright, so I guess this is like metal, right? We're gonna go with steel on this one actually. And we're gonna keep the encoder cap in a black appearance, right? This gearbox, we can do like some black aluminum. So we can copy again the aluminum, or duplicate, and then we're gonna make it black. So not too dark though. Right, and now we have our motor bodies. There's actually this guide that I'm gonna show you guys at the end, but there's this rendering guide that pretty much me and my friends built, and you can see a variety of like materials that will look good. So like on these screws, right, this kind of color material looks nice. On this aluminum part, right, this kind of material looks nice, etc. So I'm actually gonna go get these screws, which is the last thing I need to apply appearance to. So I believe that was nickel. Yep. All right, and then I'll apply to the screws, and that looks pretty cool. So now, if I go back to my home view, everything looks like it's almost rendered. I mean, everything looks like it's almost like properly applied appearances too. I guess these things too, these screws here. Gotta get this screw right, and then maybe like these clips, we can do like steel here. All right, cool. Oh, forgot one more thing. This big plate. Okay. And as you know, and there's also a few other things that we can do. So like normally when we buy motors in FTC, they come with like a sticker on them, right? The sticker shows like what gear ratio or like what speed they're at. And what we can actually do is that we can actually insert these kind of stickers. They're called decals. And we can go over to here and we can insert a decal. And I'm going to insert this from my computer. And let's go build a sticker decal. And I'm just going to quickly resize everything. Ooh. Move everything to the center and then we'll resize. Right. There you go. Right. And now our motors have stickers on them, right? You can see that they applied on the bottom here because these motors are all the same part, but they're flipped. Their orientation is flipped, right? But that's no worry. So we got the stickers. So yeah, so we can apply a lot of appearances to our robot. I'm seeing that I'm still missing some. I can apply a steel appearance again to here, and then steel for these bearings as well, and maybe aluminum for this clip. Okay, I think I got the entire robot. So after we apply our appearances, which is the tedious process, we can then change the background. This is called the scene setting. So if we go back to here, we can right click with our mouse and then we can see the scene settings button. You can also click here. Let me close this. And scene settings is pretty cool. It allows us to configure everything from brightness, camera angle to the exposure. So like if I bump this brightness really high, right, then everything looks really distorted. So we're gonna keep it around like, I like to do like 1K2. Okay, we can also flatten the ground, so it's not really visible here, but I can change the background in a second. We can change our camera angle, so perspective is like a 3D camera angle, right? If you guys ever took like a technical drafting class, perspective keeps it 3D, and if I do orthographic, it looks 2D, everything looks 2D, right? We're gonna keep perspective, I like that look. We're not gonna bump up the exposure. The exposure is kind of like the brightness. It is, but there's a little bit like more like to it. I can't exactly explain it, but as you adjust it, you can play around with it and you can see that it's a little bit different than just adjusting the brightness. So I'm gonna do like 9.5 before. That was a pretty nice number. And yeah, and now to change the background. This is probably my favorite part. So we can actually make this a solid color. So we want to have our background be completely booger green. Right? That looks pretty ugly, right? But we can also change it based on the environment. So the environment library is pretty cool. These are pretty much, imagine like you have the robot in real life and you're taking this in like some kind of box and there are cameras. I mean, there are like lighting, like light bulbs. So you can see how the lighting changes, right? The shadow changes. If I apply different like lighting to it. And I am gonna make the background actually the environment. So you can literally see like that's like the light. And what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna create reflections on the ground. And that steps up the render a lot more because you know you're actually bringing it to life. There's some like 3D aspect to it. if you turn the roughness down, it looks really blurred. But obviously you don't want to have a complete reflection because that's very distracting. So we're gonna do something like this. That looks cool. And I am going to, that's what happens when you turn the brightness down. I'm actually going to show you one more thing with the environment. There's this thing called HDRIs, and that's pretty much the high definition resolution image. If we open this website, we can browse a variety of HDRIs to download, and you'll see in a second what this actually does. But I downloaded some random one yesterday, and I can actually open this. Colorful Studio, and in a second you'll see something pretty cool. Okay, so we're now in this 3D world called the Color Studio, and if I zoom back out enough, you'll see that this is literally like, it's pretty laggy, but you'll see that this is like some studio, and this is way too dark. Like for the robot, this is way too dark. So what I'm actually gonna do is I can actually change the position of the robot too with this setting, and hopefully by changing the position of the robot, I could get some better lighting. Okay, I don't actually like this environment. This is a little bit too dark. So we're gonna go with something a little bit more better. So the plaza, okay. And if I just apply this really quickly, voila, now we're in a plaza, and you can kind of see how that goes, and we can actually tone the brightness down a little bit. We can tone it down to like 20,000. That's pretty cool, right? And we're almost done with our render actually. So we messed with a lot around things. We messed with the background, the actual appearance of the robot. So the last thing we gotta do is that we just gotta export it. And I would say this is the hardest step about rendering, because exporting is really being careful about your camera angle. So imagine you're a photographer and you're trying to take a picture. Exporting is pretty much that step. You're trying to take the picture. You're trying to find the right position of everything. So one view that I always like to do with my robots is a isometric view. Encompasses everything. So when you render, we can actually see that we can edit a bunch of parameters. So this is like the resolution of your final picture, right? If you want to have a nice picture, obviously you up the resolution. So I'm gonna do a quick 3840 by 2080, I think that's 4K, 2160. So we're gonna do a 4K render. It's got really crisp. Maybe not on the projector, but hopefully it'll look nice. And we're gonna do what's called a cloud render. So pretty much when you render an image, your computer's like trying to compute all the pixels, right? And if you have a really good graphics card on your computer, right, you can compute all these pixels really fast. But for most of us, we don't have a really good computer, so we're gonna do what's called a cloud renderer, and that's pretty much we render it online, and the service online sends the image back to us. So this might take a while. I actually might do a lower resolution, just so people can actually see how the final images look like. And we click the render button. We have to save the document. Now our cloud rendering started. While I'm doing that, I'm gonna talk to you about more about camera angles. So there's this camera angle that I always like to do, right? This is a pretty nice one. You got like cool side view. You can do like a complete side view. You can do like underneath view, right? That looks pretty cool actually. I want to render that, so. Again, we want to do a custom setting where we can define the pixel count, and we're going to do a cloud render. And this will take anything from like 3 to 10 minutes depending on your internet and your how big your image actually is. We can do a back view like that too. Oh, there's a whole bunch of stuff I didn't set appearances to. But we can actually revisit that process. So again, if I want to set appearance to this thing, right? This odometry module, and give it that, and then give this that, and then give this that, and then give this bearing a steel look. Oops. Right, everything now is metallic. That's pretty cool. And then we can do like a back render, something like this. So the most important thing is that when you're rendering, keep in mind when you hit the render button over here, it will take the exact position of what you're looking at. So if I am zoomed out like this, my picture will render like with the wheel being in the center, and then my robot's gonna be cut off. So you want to be very careful about your camera positioning. And this is why you need to get a mouse, because if you try doing this on a trackpad, it's quite impossible. Like I literally don't even know how to click on the trackpad. But get a mouse for CAD. So we can render this, and then our final image will pop up. We're gonna probably have to wait a bit. Anytime now. Hopefully this will finish before my time runs out. But while I talk on that, I could show you some more renders and some tricks. So last year I designed a robot, and my friends were like, hey, let's make this robot mostly black, right? And you can see how that's really annoying to render, because if your appearances tab is a bunch of black things, right? You don't know what's plastic, a black piece of plastic, or a black piece of aluminum, right? It's really confusing. So what I did was I applied all the correct materials to this robot, right? But I like highlighted every key color. So green would be like a rubber material, right? Red would be like a black aluminum material, right? Orange would be like plastic material. And then at the end, I just have to change the color. I have to change the colors of everything. As a result, we get a final image like this. This makes it so much easier because, as you can see, everything is just black in this robot. But you can still tell like the material off of this, right? This is like rubber. This is like acrylic or polycarb. This is like carbon fiber, right? And over there is like aluminum. So that's one really good tip and trick about rendering. You can see more pictures over here. You see everything's really dark because that was like the theme we wanted to have with our robot. And over here, same thing. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for today. So rendering is a pretty simple process. Just mentally, it's just a lot of work. You can sit there for like a whole hour just assigning appearances, right? And I kind of rushed my appearances too, but hopefully you get like a basic idea. And I urge you to, as we wait for this image, I urge you to check out this render guide if you're more interested in this. I have a link to my presentation, which has a link to the render guide. So if you want to save that link, go ahead. And pretty much this render guide is extremely comprehensive. It goes through everything that I just talked about, from appearances, right? Like here we're giving the robot an appearance, to making custom backgrounds. Right, we can change the lighting here, to exporting, right, which is like over here. And also has a really bunch of cool robots to look at. So if you're into that stuff, you can just look at these pictures. So there's a robot like I designed for my team. There's another one. There's another one. Man, this one is like really cool. This was for FTC's game last year, and like this is crazy. They had to like render the entire field, and look at the floor tiles. Like you can see the stains in them. That's how perfect it was. So yeah, and then there are like smaller renders here, close-ups, I guess. Like look at this. Like this image literally looks like it's real. This one is like you can kind of see. This one looks like it's just a really good camera. Same with this one. This one they literally added the lines you see in 3D printing, so that's really cool. But yeah, and hopefully I can show you guys that. Okay, we might be here for a little bit longer, but hopefully these pictures will load and you can see like the final product we made together. But other than that, that's pretty much it about rendering. It's a pretty simple process, just really long. And yeah, I can take any questions right now. Does anyone have any questions? All right. Oh yeah.
Yeah, before you said it was a cloud rendering and there was another one.
Yeah, local render. Yeah, what about it?
Yeah, what's the difference between the two?
Oh yeah, so cloud is like you're doing it off like the internet, so they have like another computer online rendering for you. Local is like you're using your own computer's like processing power. So if you don't have a graphics card, this is pretty bad. But if you do have like a really good graphics card, then you can do a local render and it should be pretty fast. Got it? Yeah. All right, cool. I hope these images load. If these images don't load, it'll be pretty sad. There's also one other option we can do. There's something called an in-canvas render. So if I go over here, this might kill my computer, but what this basically does is that it gives a better idea of how the final result is going to look like. So you can see it going through the pixel iterations, right? And as you notice, this image that it's making is slightly different from the image I see in the preview. That's just by the nature of like how many details they can handle. So these final pictures will actually come out different. And they're loading. Alright, here you go. So you can see like this image looks a little bit different than this one over here. It looks a lot better actually. But yeah, once we load up the image, there's really one last thing we gotta do, which is to download the image and share it to everyone. So I'm waiting for this, and then we can download the image. But yeah, as I strongly suggest you check out this render guide, and if you want, please save the link to this presentation. It's public. And yeah, again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. If not, and that's pretty much it. We're gonna wait for this image. Ooh, this one's done. Okay, this did not came out as nice as I wanted it to, but that's fine. So I can download this image. I can also remove the background by clicking transparent background. And I can do something called post-processing. So this is pretty much just like, if I want to adjust the brightness of the final image a little bit more, I can. So like, I can adjust the exposure, right? I want to make this a little bit darker, right? Like maybe like that, that's better, right? I don't know what these settings do. These just change like the tone of the image, but this is fine. I can bring up the saturation, which is kind of crazy. I can make this black and white. I can bring it up like that. That's kind of nice. I can also do like color correction. That's really not necessary. But so if you mess up your render, you can always change it a little bit at the end. And we're just gonna apply, and then it's gonna re-render. What's this? This is pretty cool. We're gonna download this, and could save this as a picture. And we can open this. Oh. And it should be here. And voila, we have our robot, right? So what started out as something that looked like this, right? Pretty like crunky and like crusty. We have a pretty crisp image of our robot. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And yeah, hope you guys enjoy rendering. I hope this interests you. and you can always follow everything I said on this guide. So yeah, that's about it.